What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Real Moves Podcast. I'm Jonathan Gonzalez, and I'm here with...
I'm Jeff Luna.
And today, we are in the presence of one of the most badass real estate agents in Southern California, specifically Long Beach, California, Miss Gia Silva. What's going on, Gia?
Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
The LBC.
Doing good. That's right, LBC.
Thanks for coming in. We're glad to have you on. So for anybody out there who doesn't know who you are, what you do, what is it that you do?
I'm a real estate agent. I lead a team over in Long Beach, California. I've been doing it for about 7 years now and practicing real estate for about 20.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you have a long history then.
So
you started what, maybe like 03, 02?
Started when I was 12. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I started in 03.
Okay.
2003.
So take us back. Let's. I think your story is interesting because you come from a different continent. You weren't even born here. You were born elsewhere, and you found success over time, right? And one thing probably led to another. But let's talk about where were you born? Where do you come from?
So I was born in Lima, Peru, and we migrated with my family literally from, I would say, like a couple days to another. Like it was just like a week span where we just decided, my family decided to move to the States. There was a lot of terrorism going on in Lima at the time. So that was like early 90s, and we landed straight in Long Beach, where my uncle was already living here in a little neighborhood of Long Beach. And so like cousins, aunts, uncles, we all landed in Long Beach, and it was like 16 of us in like a 3-bedroom house. So
Dang.
Big culture shock for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you came, so how old were you when you came?
11.
Okay, so do you have pretty distinct memories of Lima? I'm sure you're still old enough to remember that kind of stuff.
Yes.
When you came here, did you speak English?
Nothing. Not a word. Just no.
So did you find it, was that difficult to adapt, right? Like you go to school and it's like you can't even communicate with people. Did you struggle with that a little bit, I assume?
Yes. And probably the toughest part is my mom's a big badass. And my mom wanted me to learn English very fast, and especially since I was 11. I mean, you guys know how kids are, right? You like absorb things like a sponge. So she enrolled me in a school with no ESL, no English as a second language. So I had no choice but to learn English.
Wow.
So that happened within like months of me having to learn English. And then Barney and Friends helped a lot too.
And then going from, essentially, I mean, is Peru a third world country, I assume,
Yeah.
at that point in time?
Yeah.
A lot of terrorism, and you come here. What are your parents doing to help put food on the table? Because I'm sure that can't be easy if you leave a place and everything you know, love, and have behind. And it's like, what was life like here?
Very different. Everyone, right? Like Lima our neighborhood was very, very small. And so you would walk out of your door and you'd greet everyone. You'd know everyone. Everyone would know each other. They'd ask you for sugar, right? Like poquito de azúcar. Moving here was just, again, culture shocking, completely different. My dad stayed back for a few years to like make a little bit more money as well. And then we moved here with my mom and my brothers, and my mom had to work. And, there's a lot of memories I have of her trying to get by, right?
Yeah.
And like survive, and in a new country where like she doesn't know anything, she doesn't speak the language. So yeah, I have vivid memories of that too. Yeah.
What did your parents do when they were in Peru for like work?
So mom worked for the Social Security Administration, and dad worked for like a tile company. But we lived in it was a very modest neighborhood. Now that you go back, it's a poor neighborhood, right? But they've done a little bit of work to it, infrastructure, so now it even looks better. But that's all I knew when I was a kid. So you don't know that you're poor. You just know that, you got one Barbie that your uncle and aunt sent you from the U.S., and all the little girls want to play with it as well on the block. But it was humbling.
So you guys had family in the U.S. already?
Yes, we had just one uncle that had moved to the U.S. Yeah, and he was the one that was putting in all the efforts to bring us to.
Wow.
I think nowadays you carry like that with a lot of pride, right? Where you come from and how it's molded and shaped you. Why do you think that is? What makes you love it so much?
for you?
You know, there's a lot of things of my culture that are very dear to me, are very special to me, but also like nostalgic, right? So even though I moved here when I was very young, it was like I could remember certain things that now translate to me as an adult. But I feel like hard work has always been in like my family. I've always grown up with a lot of hard work. I've seen my parents and my family get really creative in ways to, you know, get by and make money. So I think one of the things that I've really treasured from not just my culture, but my family itself is hard work. Mm-hmm. It's just like never giving up and working hard.
So fast forwarding a little bit, talking about hard work, after high school, did you start work in high school or did you start like right after?
I've worked all my life. So even when moving here, mom always wanted me to like see her doing something, right? So one of the things that mom used to do is during the summer, she used to bring me to downtown LA, and she would literally go buy wholesale clothes for women, and then used to go to the buildings, the downtown LA buildings, and park during their lunch hour. And one of my aunts worked there as a receptionist, so she would tell everybody. They would all come down. Mom would open the back of her, the trunk of her car, and people would buy. And initially, I hated going to downtown LA because I didn't know what was going on. But then I would see my mom's face when her trunk was empty, and then I would understand what she was doing, right?
Yeah.
She was really trying to survive and get us by. So I learned early on coming to this country that she was going to do whatever it took, for sure, to build a life for us, for our family, even when dad wasn't here. Mm-hmm. And then after, so I worked after that, seeing that I would do I used to do newspaper rounds. I did it all. I worked at Ace Parking in a booth when I was going to college, which got hit also at like 3 a.m. when people were coming out of a club. So then I quit. But I found myself going to a community college, and I don't know how I just ended up in this job as a receptionist in a real estate company. And that's how I kind of really was brought into the real estate world, because I saw what others were doing, but I was just the receptionist in the front desk, just transferring like the big phones back then, right, in early 2000s. And then I actually started seeing when they gave me more responsibilities and gave me files to make copies of. At the end of the day, I would see the checks on top, right? So I would see the checks, and I'm like, Jerry? Like, Jerry did that? What? Like, so-and-so did this, right? And I couldn't believe it. And I didn't even understand what they did. I was just a receptionist. So finally, I walked into the broker's office, and I'm like, what do you guys do here? And is it legal? Because I need to learn. And there it goes. The rest is history.
The rest is history.
So you're making copies. You see these big old checks. And
yes.
Like, what the heck? I need a piece of the pie.
I need a piece of the pie. Or what is it that they're doing, right? Like, what is it? And did they go to college, right? What did they do? Did they have to go to a 4-year degree? And then realizing that some of the people that walked through that door in the office that I had conversations with, that they were making that kind of money, I couldn't believe it. Yeah. I was perplexed by it, right? I'm like, I'm a little brighter than him. I'm a little brighter than Jerry. I could do the same. Probably
the hustler came out of you. Like,
yeah,
I got to do this.
Exactly. Yeah. So you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
You really don't.
Yeah.
So that was definitely the beginning.
So at that point in time, you were going to school while working that job. Then,
I was going to school. So I was going to school full time to community college. I was also working at retail, Victoria's Secret, and working this other job part time at the real estate company. So once I figured out that that was something that I was going to jump into, I was scared because I had no idea, right? What it entailed. Like, I had no idea, but I knew I was going to do it.
Wow. So then from that point on, you saw these checks and everything, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this. What's the first step there? Like, did you just go, hey, Mr. Broker, can you teach me how X, Y, and Z? Or what?
Well, there was a principal's course, so I had to do a course at that office. So I would finish work, and as a receptionist, and I would stay for a few hours to do the course.
Right.
By this time, I was already thinking like, yeah, maybe school's not for me. Maybe like a 4-year, right? Like, maybe it's not for me, and maybe I can actually do this.
And like, how much of the school have you completed at this point when you said that?
Like a year.
Oh, a year. Okay.
A year in community college. So I literally needed like another year to transfer.
Wow.
Yeah. And during that time, I'm like, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a psychologist. I want to do this. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I think seeing the checks gave me the clarity.
Yeah.
Seeing the money.
Right. So you start getting into the business and you start working. Did it come easy in the beginning?
Oh, absolutely not.
No.
I mean, I'm like 19 years old in real estate, right?
Yeah.
I remember walking into the broker's office and I'm like, I know you guys do real estate and you do loans. Back then you could do both, right? Without having the NMLS license. And I walked in and I said that to him. And one of the first things he said to me is like, listen, you're going to do really good in real estate. You're really good with people. You're a fast learner. Like, you're going to do really good in real estate. Financing, loans, not sure, because you're really young. So most people may not trust you with their finances. Well, I mean, he said that to me and I was like, I'm doing loans too now.
Yeah.
Just for telling me that. So yeah. And then, so within months, I was his top producer, but it's literally because I talked to everybody. And
Shamelessly.
Also, shamelessly. Exactly. Shamelessly. But it was also the time that business, that anybody that was getting into the business at that time, early 2000s, it was moving fast. So anyone that was jumping into real estate was doing pretty good. You didn't have to put that much effort. It's really when the market turns, right? And when you see different markets and different shifts where you actually have to put in more work and there's a lot more challenges, that's really when you know you're really working.
I think that's big too, because you see a lot of like young people and they have trouble communicating, right? They're really good at texting or online, but when they get in front of people, they have a tough time talking. So for you, do you think being with your mom when you were young and seeing her, you know, sell stuff on the street, like, do you think that was like gave you courage to like talk to anyone?
You know what? That's actually a really good point. Yeah, I'm wondering, that could have been it for sure. I also know that my mom, but my dad, just my whole family has always been very big in having us involved in conversations, in adult conversations. So since I was a kid, I heard conversations, right? I heard the conversations of like, these are the bills, right? I would see mom and dad when we moved to this country sitting down when he finally came and joined us, going through that, like in the evening, going through bills, and we were having dinner, right? We were still finishing up dinner and they were like, do you see how much we pay for this? And those conversations happened all the time. Yeah.
They never like shushed you away.
They never shushed us away from things, which was, I think it's amazing that they were able to do that. And I don't even think that they knew how to like, this is the way to parent. It just became like, no, they need to know reality. They need to know why we've come here. They need to know what we do, how things cost.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also one of the reasons why I don't take anything for granted, like nothing whatsoever, because I've seen them work really hard and I've seen what a toilet paper costs,
right?
You know, from the moment that we moved here.
I wanted to ask you too, you know, you were young, because I was 21 when I started.
Okay.
And being 19, you know, you see obviously people making good money, but there's a competition aspect in every office, right? Mm-hmm. Did you think that a lot of the people saw you were young and they kind of like shined you on in the beginning and they were like, we're not going to really tell this girl a whole lot, you know? Or did you ask anyone for help and they kind of like, you know, were...
You know, at the time I didn't know what to expect because I had never worked. And then mind you, most of the people that worked there at the office were a lot older. I was the youngest one. Right? So yes, I could see maybe like, I wonder how she's gonna do. I think they saw the grit right from the beginning, and from the moment that I was like on the phone all the time, door knocking, I mean, doing whatever I had to do, I think they realized, oh no, she's for real.
At that point,
playing around.
Did you get haters? Because people get jealous. Like if you see somebody, you've been doing this 20 years, and you know, if you're 40 years old and then a 19-year-old comes in and starts killing it, it's like people get jealous. Did you get haters and people who like...
I mean, listen, if you don't have haters, you're not in business. That's what I say, okay? You got to have the haters.
Yeah.
And so, but at that time, when you're that young, you may not understand that, right? You may not understand, like, no, you need the haters. They're your motivators. Like, sometimes you don't see it that way.
Yeah.
So, yes, it was a little bit, like, shocking to see that that older people wouldn't be more helpful towards me, right, with me. But I got over it, and then I realized that, you know what, like, I got to get better. I got to work on myself, and the more I work on myself, people may like me now, but the more I work on myself and like learning my craft in real estate, they're going to respect me.
Yeah.
You know, so I very much focused on that. Yeah.
So talking about like real estate now and some of the stuff that you've done, I think some of your strengths in what you do are the way you talk to people. Like, you know how to, and I don't want to say manipulate because it has like a negative connotation, right? But you know how to talk to people in the right tone depending on the situation.
Yeah.
You know how to assess the situation and talk to them to get the result you want. Where do you think that comes from? Is that a lot of studying and like experience, or?
So I'm a big reader. I read a lot, but I consider myself a very deep thinker, right? So I actually like analyze a lot of things. So I analyze body language, I analyze tonality, I analyze rate of speech, things like that when I'm speaking with someone. I want to ask more questions than talk, right? When you ask more questions, you seem to get to know more of the person and they seem to open up more to you. So I feel like you just find out a lot about a certain situation and how you can help someone best, and what are the things that are going to be the challenges for them, or the challenges that they bring that may not even be challenges. Mm-hmm. But all of that, I don't find out unless I ask a lot of questions. So aside from, you know, like being able to read body language and energy and things like that, it's definitely asking all the questions I need to now know, how can I help you best?
Yeah.
Right?
You know what's funny? I really like that you said that. How can I help you best? Because there's a very, very common theme here in real estate. For yourself, for you, some of the past guests we've had on who are real estate agents, they're some of the more successful agents that I know. And it's no surprise that every single one of you guys, yourself included, all have this idea of, what can I do to help you? How can I help you? It's never about me selling it, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that seems to be a common theme, and that's why, you know, you do so well, because you have their best interests at heart.
Yeah. You know, it's genuinely though, like
Yeah.
genuinely. I think once you understand that, if you genuinely are interested in the people that you service or that you actually want to work with, because there's people I don't want to work with, right? After I ask them a lot of questions and then I read
Yeah.
their tonality, energy, and so forth, I'm like, I don't know if I want to work with you, right? We're just not on the same wavelength, perhaps. But once I realize that it's someone that I do want to work with, it's genuinely, I care to know how I can help them the best, like how I can service them best.
Yeah.
I feel like we really need to change our industry. You know, the way our industry is seen is like, it's sad at times. The bar is very low to get into real estate. And I say that with like, I say that directly.
Right.
Bar is very low to get into real estate. And so we have so many real estate agents out there that are real estate agents, that are salespeople, but are not business owners, right? And they don't know how to run a business or build a business or even build relationships, which is everything about your business,
Yeah.
right?
I agree.
For perspective, real quick, just for the listener, quick question. If I'm not an agent, right? I'm not a licensed agent. If I started the process tomorrow, how long will it take me till I'm licensed?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jonathan. It just depends if you've done your principles course. So you got to go through a principles course first, right? That usually could take you like 3 to 4 months just about to finish it, to complete the principles course. And then after that, you schedule your state exam. You might want to do a crash course right before the state exam. So it just depends when the state like sends you your letter saying, okay, you can take the exam
I could probably
now.
get it done by next year, early next year.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Really?
It's a pretty low bar then.
And then click print.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember the first time I went to take my test, I was sitting next to this lady. I was about to walk in the building, the federal building. And she's like, I'm so nervous. I'm like, are you? And she's like, yes. Is this your first time taking the test? I said, yeah, it is. She's like, oh, it's my 8th.
Damn.
I'm like, okay then. And literally this exam, for the viewers, the real estate exam is a reading comprehension exam. That's why I say it's a very low bar to
Multiple
get into real
choice.
estate. It's multiple choice. It's reading comprehension. That's really what it is, right?
So you feel that brings the industry down a little bit, gives it like
Yeah.
kind of makes
Yeah.
it notorious for.
Because anybody can have a license,
Yeah.
right? You don't have requisites of like, now you have to take finance classes, negotiation skills. None of that. It's like, you have a license, go help someone with their biggest asset that they have in their life.
Yeah, that doesn't sound.
And then
like,
too, like the contracts are changing every year because there's so many lawsuits.
Exactly.
So go figure. It's like, you know.
Just imagine how many agents don't even know how to read a contract, right? Don't even know how to explain a contract to their clients. They're signing their life away. Yeah. So I'm very passionate when it comes to our industry and making sure that consumers, homeowners know that not all real estate agents are created equally.
Yeah. Where does that passion come from? Is it because, something happened in your family, or is it because your parents worked so hard to get their home, or what do you think that is?
It's really I have a lot of pride in what I do. I love what I do. Like, I know people say that, like, no, I really like what I do. And real estate is challenging. There's times where I literally want to like stab myself with a fork. Okay. Yeah. But I love it. Like, despite all of that, I absolutely love it. So because I have so much pride in what I do, it's more of like industry. It's more of like having people out there that have the misconception that every real estate agent is like this, right? Every real estate agent is out for a check, whatever it is, and really don't care about and that real estate agents don't care about people. We need to change that as an industry. And it's only going to start with the agents that really care for their clients, that are genuinely building businesses and relationships. So I definitely feel like we need to do more for that and squeeze all the average agents out.
Well, even right now, the market that we're going into, right? Because I'm trying to put my mind where you were at in 2003, my understanding, because I was young.
Yeah.
But the market was on the upward.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it was on an upward trend. And then obviously 2008 hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So right now, ever since I got into real estate, the market's been
good times
on an upward trend.
Right.
And my dad, he's been in real estate since 1993.
Oh,
and he says, you never seen a down market, right? So obviously, what's going on right now financially, economically, things are looking not like they used to look, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is an opportunity for the cream to rise to the top, right? So
what are some things that agents can do to set themselves apart to prepare for doomsday or whatever you want to call it?
You gotta get ahead of everything that's happening in the industry, right? Just to give you an example, when 2020 hit, when COVID hit, right, and we had the order to stay home, real estate agents had no idea what to do. They're like, what? We can't show a house? We can't have an open house, right? How are we gonna do it? How are we gonna have a listing appointment or meet with the buyer? I was already on Zoom for 2 years.
Yeah.
I already had a Zoom account. I was already doing videos, right? So all of those things, once you gotta get ahead of what's happening, of everything. What's happening right now? Everything's AI. Everyone's freaked out about AI. So get in front of it. Get in front of the things that are going to come, really fast at you. And if you're not getting in front of it, it's going to pass you by, and you're just going to be one of those agents that is not very noticeable or people don't go to. Right? Uh-huh. So I would absolutely say that. Get ahead of the game and just and build on your craft, like build on your skills, work on that. That's something that you can, anyone that calls me and they call me because they know I'm knowledgeable, but they know I always either have an answer or will be a connector to someone that will have an answer. Right? So be resourceful. Yeah.
Be a student.
Be a student.
There's a lot of pride in this business.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people think that what they do is the best thing known to man, that their process is,
Be a student. And there is, I heard this once from a mentor, and now it's like comes to my mind all the time. There is sweat equity and there's check equity, right? I hear that all the time. Mm-hmm. Check equity is what most agents want to do. They want to write a check so that they can get the leads on Zillow. So, write a check to do the postcards, write a check to buy leads, to all of this. But the sweat equity is really what sets you apart, because not many agents do it, right? So sweat equity is door knocking, holding open houses, getting on the phones for 3 hours a day, right? Getting hung up on. That's the sweat equity, right? So if you're not doing that as a real estate agent, you need to get out of the business. Like, you absolutely need to be doing that. So people will ask me now, like, gosh, Gia, you've been doing this for a long time. You're running a team. You seem pretty successful. You're still door knocking? I'm like, every Friday. On the weekends. You still call? Every day. If I don't talk to 14 people, new people every single day, I get worried. So it's the basics. It's just doing the basics, at a high level. That's the basics at a high level, which most agents don't want to do.
Yeah, a lot of people I think shy away from that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I get it. I mean, it's easy to like not do stuff or not do stuff that you don't want to do. But I mean, you're in the business for a reason. You gotta like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you're acting as in the best interest of your client, then you would do something about it, right? Like what I like that you do is like, if you have a buyer and there's no inventory, they want to be in the marina or they want to be in Naples and nobody's selling their house in Naples, you will go door knock that neighborhood and be like, hey, you want to sell?
Yeah.
Hey, you want to sell?
Yeah.
You create the inventory that is not there.
You got that right. Create the opportunities.
Yeah, that's the sweat equity that I think you're talking about there.
Exactly.
Yeah, agents don't want to.
They just
Most of
don't
them
want
don't
to
want to do that.
They don't want to do that.
I tell everyone too. I remember when I first started, like our office did a lot of like recruiting. The first office I was at, and we were in a room, like conference room. There was like 20 of us, like new agents, and everyone was like saying how they're gonna change the game and change their lives, and like 95% of them like are doing something else now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah, they are. Agents that I knew in 2003, 2004, right, before the crash of 2008, that were making six-figure incomes. Literally 2008 happened, and it happened like an eclipse. It really did. It felt like one dark day, right? It happened, and all of those agents that did not know how to build a business, and they were just commission-based, that's it, they just were looking for the commission, they all went back to Starbucks, right? I saw a lot of them. They went back to their 9-to-5 job. They got their cars repossessed, right? Their Hummers at the time. Like, yeah. And when was the last time you saw a Hummer?
It's been a minute.
Exactly. Like, I used to see Hummers, like, right? Like lemons on trees everywhere.
Well, even like for me too, like I know because I was the youngest person in the room at the time, and you know, you kind of talk to the older people and get their perspective on, you know, the market back then, and everyone had like the same story, like, oh yeah, we're driving nice cars, we're flying private to Vegas, everyone was eating, you know. And I'm like, man, you guys didn't invest your money? Or, I mean, what were you doing? You know, and everyone said no. They just thought it was never going to end.
Yeah.
They just thought this is the way that we did business. And
We're good.
You know, yeah, we're good.
We're good. Yeah.
And it was just like a free-for-all. I'm just like, man, but there were people that invested a lot of their money into real estate, you know. And, man, if you were able to capitalize on that as you were making money, I mean, you could have really set yourself up great. But most people didn't do that.
You're right. Most people did not do that. They just spent it on, you know, trips, Hummers.
Tell us about your experience
shoes.
in 08, 09. What did that look like for you?
It was tough. I was not financially savvy, right? Like I had no financial health from my parents. No, they don't teach you that in high school either, right? They don't teach you how to save money. So the same way, right? What you just said, Jeff, I thought the money was going to keep coming, right? So I spent it on a building. I did buy a building. So I bought some real estate.
A Hummer.
Not a Hummer.
A Benz.
Never really liked the Hummer, really. But I did a lot of shoes. I spent it on a lot of shoes.
Tore up the mall.
You bought real estate?
I bought some real estate, but then in 2008, I had to short sell it, right? But again, all these things, all these moves, they weren't strategic. I had no idea what I was doing. I always say to myself, like, yes, I worked really hard when I started real estate. I did not know how to keep money necessarily. I made a lot of money. So I feel like my true career days have started maybe about 10 years ago, even though I've done it 20 years, right? Why? Because it wasn't until 10 years ago that I said to myself, wait, I'm running a business. I'm not just an agent, right? I'm putting together a business. People depend on me for their biggest asset. And also you get a little bit more mature with time, right? You go through different experiences, you see different things. And I just knew it had to be different. I had to do things differently, for sure. So I understood. I started reading a whole lot more about business, about how to build things from the ground up again. I studied different brokerages. I studied big brokerages. I studied small brokerages. I realized that a lot of them didn't even know where they were going. They didn't really have a mission or core values. So there was a lot of studying. I just became a student of things.
So you never really had like a mentor you can go to, like someone that was like...
No, I never had I thought I had a mentor, and then it turned out that it wasn't a mentor because all the things I was learning was like not the good behavior, right? And then all of a sudden, after the crash happened, now I had to kind of, yes, reinvent yourself, but also realize, like, unlearn a lot of the things that you were taught that perhaps were not true,
yeah.
you know? And I started realizing this, but also, like, I was also growing up, right? I was in my 20s, right? So not only am I going through, like, a crash, like short selling a property, right? Having to, like, work on short sales and not have sales. So this was, like, tough. Short sold my house, went to live in, like, a 5-bedroom house with 4 guys in Downey. Like, it was nuts. This is all 2008.
Good old Downey.
Yeah, this is all 2008, right?
My whole family's from Downey. It's funny.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah, we're all from Downey.
All real estate is over there too.
Well, they said actually the most fraud in 2008 was like in the Downey area.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I was working in a Downey area as the youngest agent, and I ended up leaving. I left because I figured some stuff out, and it just didn't set well with me. I was like, oh, this is terrible.
That doesn't surprise me.
I left,
Yeah.
and when I left, maybe a month later, everyone left in the office, and then the broker went bankrupt.
Wow.
At the time.
Wow.
Yeah. So I saw it left and right. I saw a lot of fraud going on. I wanted to run away as fast as I could. Like, where I see trouble, I run away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Bringing us-
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, bringing us to today, you know, modern times present, you have a very great business. You have systems and processes like no other. To get into the more like practical advice for maybe agents out there who are listening, what are maybe, let's just say, if you could leave agents with nothing else but other than these 3 pieces of advice in real estate, what are some things you would tell them? Along what lines?
Along what lines? You know, and I don't think that this just goes for real estate agents, Jonathan. I think it goes for everyone who's just trying to build something, right? Being in real estate is being an entrepreneur. So I would say for anyone who's wanting to be an entrepreneur, aspires to be an entrepreneur, one is absolutely continue to be a student of life, continue to be a student of your own craft always. And never forget the little things that you're doing added up, they add up. But also the consistency, right, of doing them is going to get you what you want. And when you do get there, just don't forget about those things. It's the basics.
Yeah.
Don't ever forget about doing the little things that people sometimes think like they're not making a difference, right? They're not really moving the needle. The little things that you do added over time, they move the needle big. Right? And we've all known these theories, right?
Yeah.
Like you spend a lot of time doing these things and you go really deep, it's gonna move the needle. So it's that. A lot of people believe like, gosh, I'm grinding here, I'm grinding here, I'm grinding here. Okay, I'm just gonna go here. And only if you just kept doing it a little longer, it was right there where you were at. You know, so have the patience with yourself, I would say, and then give yourself a lot of grace that you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna learn. You're going to have a lot of different experiences, but never forget the little disciplines that you're creating because those are the ones that are always going to set you apart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
that's great advice.
It's like a long road, right? If you picture it or whatever. Like
Yeah.
you look ahead and it's like, damn, I want to get there. There's a mountain at the end of the road. I want to get there, but damn, it's going to take forever. So it's like one step at a time.
One step at a time.
You've been in business over 20 years, me and him maybe over 5 years, and like every single day, it feels like you're not really getting too far, right? But then you inch your way forward, and then you look back. It's like, fuck, look how far I came. Like,
Yeah.
Like where I was 5 years ago.
Exactly. And you know what else I've noticed? It's kind of like a repeated thing that people do, and I've really noticed this, right? Because I observe a lot. Sometimes someone puts so much energy and so much, I mean, they invest so much, not just monetarily, but just time and everything into something that when they realize that no longer serves them, and it can be anything. It could be a business. It could be a relationship. It could be anything, right? Where you invest a lot of time, sweat, love, everything. When you realize that it doesn't serve you anymore, you're so attached to it because you've invested so much in it that it's really hard for you to detach, right? throughout like the years of running the business, I've very much learned, gosh, I can't tell you guys how much I've learned that you gotta let go. It's the ego. It's the ego that's telling you, like, you've already put a lot of time into this. Just keep going. When you already know it doesn't serve you anymore. It's not for you anymore, right? And a prime example is, let's see, it's an agent that joined my team, let's just say, right? And I'm like, we're doing everything they need to do. They have the systems, they have the training, they have it all. They probably just don't get it. But now I've invested so much time, energy in training them. I love them, right? I've developed like endearing feelings for them too as my team member. And all of a sudden I just know that they're just not gonna thrive with me. And they're probably not a match for my team. But I won't let them go. You see? Mm-hmm. So I see a lot of people doing that in business, not just in real estate. And this is where you got to lean in and go like, no, like I've realized it. Let me trust my intuition. This is it. Like this is where the line is drawn. And I feel like a lot of people need to do that.
It's like keeping around that friend that's like dragging you down, but they're funny or you like them.
Right.
So.
Or you like them or you just really like to hang out with them. But for some reason, when you hang out with them, you have a hangover every day the next day, right? Like, you know they're not serving you anymore. And it doesn't mean you're going to cut them off, but you may not want to hang out with them too much.
Yeah, exactly.
So talk about, doing little things every day, right? There's one thing there. Like Gary Vee's quote, he says, macro patience, micro speed.
Yeah.
Every single day, grind it out, hustle, but have patience in the long term. So that's your number one. Sounds like your number two is probably going to be what you just mentioned, right?
Yeah.
So like letting go of things that really don't serve you anymore.
That don't serve you anymore.
You just kind of have to learn to just move on from them.
Yes. Number
three, what else would you say is, piece of practical advice for entrepreneurs?
Practical advice for entrepreneurs. Let's see. Well, definitely building systems and processes in place. This is definitely something that I can't tell you how many businesses and how many people I know that say that they run businesses, but then when you ask them to unfold their business, right? Because my business is an open book, and you ask them to unfold it, they're unwilling to because there's a little shame, right? That there may be a lot of fluff out there of what they do, right? Especially in real estate with numbers, right? These are the volumes that I've sold. And I'm like, no, I need to know how many people have you helped? Don't give me 50 million. Give me like, have you helped 20 people or just 2? Each for 25 million. Like, right? Yeah. So those are the things I would say, like really build the processes in place, the systems in place, because as you build that in a business, now you're building something that's scalable, that's repeatable, right? It can be passed on to someone else and they could do it because you've built it on, and you hand it to someone and they're like, I could do that because you've given me clear instructions. So that is the part that entrepreneurs and business owners can't stand and hate, because I did too.
Yeah.
You do. Especially if that's not your personality, right? If you're not systematic, if you're not processy driven, that's not going to be your strength. But if you want to be a business owner or an entrepreneur, like you have to do that. Like there's no way around it. You have to run a really good business. So start from scratch and start building systems for everything. That means, yes, it's your business. So you're going to have to wake up at 4 a.m. at times, right? Especially if you have a family and kids, right? But you have to carve out that time little by little. Right? And I did that a lot for 2 years straight. And I'm continuing to do that, now filling in the gaps. But I had to do that a lot to build them in place. So now I can go on vacation for 2 weeks to Greece and I close 4 deals.
And you're fine. Like you don't, maybe a phone call or two here or there.
I took a couple phone calls, but I'm like, damn, maybe I need to go on vacation more.
Right? You're not stressed, sweating bullets the whole time over your deals.
Exactly.
You're sweating under the Mediterranean sun, really.
Yeah. But I stressed for a while building these systems. I stressed, but then it was really rewarding, right? When you actually see it like work. Like all of this is in place and the client is getting a really good experience, which is the most important. A
very simple example of what one of these systems looks like?
I'll give you an example. The moment I take a listing, so the moment someone hires me to sell their house, my transaction coordinator gets the listing, whether it's on DocuSign, electronically, or physically, and then she has a list to go. It's like Gardenia, go. And then she has all her processes in place. And my marketing coordinator does too. So now she knows we just took a new listing. Now everything starts. All of the systems begin and they take care of it. So now my marketing coordinator is sending an email to my sellers saying, hi, I'm Andrea. I'm your marketing coordinator. This is the schedule that we have. She's contacting you to get photos going, to schedule that and video and putting it all on my calendar. But that's all systems. That's not by memory.
Yeah.
That's a checklist, right? There's email templates for everything. I used to get upset and bothered years ago when someone would have misspelling, like my transaction coordinator had misspellings when speaking to my clients in emails, right? Or they would write emails that I just didn't like the way that they sounded. And then you know what? Tough shit. That's my fault. I needed to create those. If I want her to speak a certain way to my clients, write emails a certain way, I need to create that. And I need to go, here you go, sweetie. All the typos, right? I've already spell checked. All you have to do is copy and paste, and now my clients are getting what I created.
ChatGPT it.
And now, oh my God, even easier now. I love ChatGPT, right?
That's
Like
pretty
I have
crazy.
an app on my phone. I'm like, okay, everything's ChatGPT now.
Yeah.
So things like that, right? So everyone knows what they're doing, but everything had to be created, right? And even now we go back and we're like, hey, that part wasn't in the email. We forgot to tell them about changing the utilities. Shit, add it. You know, so we're always filling in the gaps.
You're always adding one or two things.
We're
here or
always
there.
adding, but honestly, it's always going back to like, what is the experience that we're giving the client? Yes, we're doing the systems to make our work more efficient, right? And easier, but also the client needs the right experience, right? They don't need to be like we're a mess handling their transaction.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I wanted to ask you too, you know, like a big question in real estate with a lot of agents, right, is always about lead generation. So the cold calling, right, that's like a given. Like those are things you actively should be doing on a daily basis.
Yeah.
What are some things that you're doing now, like passively, right? I mean, you mentioned people do Zillow, ads are, you know, you see a lot of agents that run ads that are super successful, utilizing video. What are some things that you would recommend to agents to do besides the common, you know, door knocking, cold calling?
I believe in layering. Most agents have heard of Tom Ferry. I'm part of the Tom Ferry ecosystem, and Tom Ferry actually, you know, I spoke not too long ago in an event where he spoke also, and one of the things he said, which gosh, he was like right on the nail when he said, what happens is that agents do a little bit here, a little bit there, and a little bit over here. But we are in a market and we are in a time right now in our industry where we need to layer, where we need lasagna. Where if I'm only door knocking, I'm giving you the noodle. That's what you're getting, right? If I'm only getting Zillow leads, I'm only doing this. It's just the meat. But the moment you start sending the postcard, then you door knock them, then you circle dial, then you do a video text to them, they know you. You are layering. You are building the lasagna for them, right?
Need that ricotta.
Boom. And they're like, who is this gal? Right? Like they start thinking, they're like, who is this? You are literally layering them so that they know you are top of mind when they think about selling their house, buying their house. But not even that. When they think about, I need a recommendation for a plumber. Who do I trust? Who's my connector? Who do they think of? Me. Because I've layered it enough to go, I'm the expert. I'm here. I'm not just going to send you a postcard and wait for you to call me. I'm not just going to door knock and you're never going to see me again. See? It's the layering that every agent needs to do. But that's where you have to put in the hours. That's where you have to put in the work.
Yeah. I think to touch on that, even prime example is here and now, right? After this podcast is done, you're going to do two things. You're going to, turn up that sweat equity and you're going to layer, because I'm going to send you the footage of this, right? We'll have several clips. I'll send them to you. And then instead of just sitting on them and saying, yeah, maybe I'll post these on Instagram one day. Maybe I'll post them on YouTube Shorts, whatever, yada, yada, yada. You're going to take those and if you have findings or anything there, you're going to go ahead and then send them to your colleagues. You're going to send them to your clients if they're relevant, right?
Right.
Whatever it is, if there's nuggets there that we mentioned and it's beneficial to someone, you're going to actually turn around and make use of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I see a lot of TikTokers, right? I see a lot of like the funny real estate videos, right? But is that how someone is going to trust you to sell their $1 million home or their $2 million home? You know, by doing like a little voiceover on TikTok, right? Or making fun of like buyers or sellers that don't want to leave their 3%, like things like that, right?
Yeah.
Like what is it that you're putting out there for someone to know that you are the go-to person, that you're like the expert, the person that they have to think of when they need anything real estate, not just selling or buying.
I want to talk about marketing a little bit.
Yeah.
Talking on this topic. So you and I create a lot of videos together, right? You're my client. We do every single week a lot of short form content, sometimes YouTube, long form content, whatever it is. But one thing that I think separates you from the competition, like I just mentioned, instead of just posting on social media, you're also sending these directly to clients.
Yes.
Back to practicality, how are you sending these out? How do you find them
You're
to be
asking me to spill
applicable?
my secrets now.
Yeah, that's what we're asking. 'Cause
You got it.
for one, we want to know. I want to know personally. I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever gotten into this. And then two, I don't think anybody's really even going to do it anyway.
Yeah, probably not. But if you do, I can't wait to see that you do it.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So we create Smart List in our CRM. And when we do Smart List, we kind of start understanding what's relevant to people, where they're at in their timeline, whether, you know, they're first time buyers, right? Or there's someone who's purchased their first house and now 2 years later, they're ready to upsize, right? And they've had a little bit of equity, and actually a lot of bit of equity in the last 2 years. So now they can buy the next house with the 20% down. So knowing that about our clients kind of creates like behavioral Smart List, where now I know that if we're creating content about a topic that's going to be relevant to the first time buyer, they're getting that video. Right?
Yeah.
How are they getting it? Well, there's different ways. You can retarget those people, and there's platforms to do that. But you could also do something like very basic, like just email marketing, right? Email marketing, or even an actual text, right? And there's just so many platforms now, like so many resources to be able to do that with, that if you're not doing it, and this is part of the layering, then you're being super passive.
What's the best kind of video that gets the most response?
The best kind of video that gets the most response is the one where you share with someone like top 3 things to do, top 5 things to do before you're doing this, because most homeowners are doing it, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You know, so for example, the ongoing concern right now is that homeowners that need to upsize their house, right? They need a bigger home, don't know how to do it because they have to sell their home first to get the money out and buy the other house. But all the houses that are on the market won't probably entertain an offer where they need to sell their house first, right?
Yeah.
That's a contingent offer. They probably won't entertain it. So what's in their minds? Like the seller's like, well, I really want a bigger house, but what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? If they don't know how to do it, having a video that goes, hey, if you really want to move because you need the 2 bathrooms rather than the one with the 3 kids, right? These are the top 5 things you should be doing now to get ready. Mm-hmm. Right?
It's a little bit kind of personalized.
It's very personalized, but if you think about it, the more questions that you're getting, and this is part of you being active in real estate, right? Being in business and talking to people. But the more questions that you're getting, that's the common denominator to make your content, right? If you're getting the same question of like, no, I don't want to buy another house because of my 3%. I'm in love with my 3%. I can't leave my 3% interest rate, right? Now you know that you got to build content on that.
Yeah.
Like, did you know that the top 2 major or 3 major concerns for homeowners right now are, I don't want to leave my 3%. Oh my God, is the market going to crash next year? Right?
Yeah.
So you're just putting out what people are thinking.
But
and then
also
giving them-
more basic than that, you know, it's consumer driven, right? So you're not sitting there saying, look at my trophy, I'm number 1. You know,
No.
Look at my diamonds.
No. Yeah.
It goes back to, what can I do for you?
Yes. What can I do for you? How can I be valuable, right? The people that bring most value to others are the ones that have the most friends. Like, that's just true. You bring me value, you are my friend.
Nice.
Period. Right?
Right.
And I'm always looking for relationships like that. So the moment that someone knows, whether they're a homeowner, a buyer, whoever it is, your friend, that you are super valuable, because not only are you just a book of knowledge, but you're also resourceful, and you also know people that will connect you to those answers. Who do they want to go to? You, for everything.
Yeah.
True advisor.
Yeah.
On that video topic, what I think I like about what you do is also a lot of agents out there, they're afraid to spend money, right, on their business, especially when it comes to video, maybe in all avenues in business. But you're okay with spending money on a video that's only going to touch really one tiny little sector of the market, because it gets a point across to maybe 5 people in your sphere, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. Do you think that in doing so, that's what really like turns up the heat a little bit, if you will, or that's what kind of like?
Yeah, I've learned that there isn't one video, and if someone thinks, an entrepreneur and real estate agent thinks that one video is gonna just build their business, if I just shoot this great video with this great content, like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get all these buyers, I'm gonna get all these listings, that's just not gonna happen, right? One, you need to be consistent. 2, you need to understand that there are going to be videos out there that you get 2 likes on and like 3 views, right? The content may have been good, but it just didn't reach the right people at the time. And you could probably recycle that content. But there's also going to be content that's not good that you've created. And that's okay. You have to be willing to put that out there. You always have to be able to test. We've had these conversations, right, where I was like, you know what? I wanted to do that, Jonathan. I saw it. I actually didn't like my idea, right? Yeah. But we did it. We tested it. Let's scratch it. Let's go with something else. But that's part of being in business, right? That's part of, like, always be testing. So that's part of being in business. So you have to be able to know what it is that you're testing, but also has to be in your budget, of course, right? But then you have to be really intentional with what you're putting out. So it could get complicated, because it's a combination of everything. At the end of the day, you're not going to have like all of your videos do great, right? So just be consistent with what you do. Just keep putting it out there.
Yeah.
You have this track record, right, of running a successful business now for 20 years, the past 10 years probably being better than the first 10. And you have great mentorship, and you're doing very, very well for yourself. Are you complacent with where you're at, or do you want to continue to grow? Where do we kind of go from here?
Well, complacency is interesting, right? It's very subjective if you think about it, because it's not so much, everyone wants something different. And even the term when someone says like you're successful, right? Or you've had a lot of success, that can mean different things for different people, right? Working in real estate forever can mean different things for different people. Retiring or whatever it is that you're planning to do can mean very different things for different people. For me, as years are going by, and I've purchased properties, I have rental properties, I'm running the business. It's like, do I want this big team? Do I want to build like an empire? Not necessarily. I feel like there is definitely, once you start in the business that you're in, you may realize that that's not maybe your calling, that's not like the ultimate goal. It may just be the vehicle to get you there. So I may feel now that, like, having worked in real estate, building the business, building the processes, helping the people, that now that's kind of my vehicle for my next thing. Right? And what could be the next thing? It may just have to be something that I just love doing, right? And
have you figured it out yet? What it is for you?
There's a couple things that I would absolutely love to do, and I know that it's gonna be a lot of hard work also, but it's that kind of thing that is gonna like ignite your passion, right? My grandma is from Cusco, so she's from like Ayacucho, where Machu Picchu is, like right around there. And she had she grew up in like a very remote area. And she had a little house. There was only like 6 people that lived. That's how many people lived in the town, 6 people, right? Including her. And there's about 20 towns in the mountain pretty much. And every town has a little school. But the only reason that every town has a school is because there's no transportation. So the kids from that town can only go to that school. So she wanted to create a school where all the kids could come to, and she would create transportation, right? But this cost money, and they didn't have money. So she literally, in that time, this was like the 40s, the 30s, the 40s, she did like a kickstart, right? It's kind of like what she did.
Yeah.
So she went around, she went to Lima to meet investors. Grandma had grit too, and was able to like collect all this funds to build a school. So she literally built a school right in front of her house. And I was fortunate enough that last year I went to see it for the first time. And Grandma's passed like 4 years ago. But she had built this school, and the school just went abandoned for a long time. So my dream would be to rebuild that school, which would be amazing. But if I didn't rebuild a school, the fact that like just carry on that legacy that she wanted, right? She was like, she wanted to create this like art school for children where they can express themselves, whether it was painting, singing, another language, instruments, whatever it was.
Right.
So that I think that ignites my passion for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really awesome.
Yeah.
To be able to go back and kind of not only build on top of the legacy of your grandmother too, right? But also to leave your own legacy.
Yeah.
To have, you know, your name kind of in the rafters, if you will, and kind of leave an impact on the less fortunate kids who may not have an education and just leave them with something, you know, and hopefully it can turn into something greater. Those kids will go on to do something such as yourself and make the school even bigger after that or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I have one last question here before we let you go. If we can go back to a certain time in your life, right? Let's just say back in like 2008, when you're kind of struggling, you don't really know what to do, you're scared, there's all this fraud going on, you want to run for the hills. If you can go back and tell yourself one thing, what would you tell yourself at that point?
What would I tell myself at that point? What would I tell myself at that point? I would say, wow, that's really good. That's a good question. What would I tell myself at that point? I would probably say to myself, believe in yourself even though it seems like others don't. That's what I would say to myself. I would just say, keep believing in yourself, like keep validating yourself. When you're younger, I mean, and it happens even when you're like 50, 60, it doesn't matter, right? You must have gone through some development to like feel like you're past things. But I feel like we all need some type of validation, and when you're younger, you tend to need more validation. And a lot of the times you don't get it, right? Whether it's from friends, colleagues, parents, growing up, whatever it is. And so you get in your head a lot, you know, even like now people get in their heads a lot about like, oh, they don't like me or they don't like me. They're not validating me. So I feel like at that time when that was happening, there's a lot of shame, right? In failure. There's a lot of shame in seeing that you were working hard and thought you were doing things right. And all of a sudden you're like failing at something, right? So that's the time that you have to know that you got to believe in yourself more, and you got to just validate yourself more and start seeing, okay, where are my shortcomings, and let me work on that, right? And where are my strengths, and also let me work on that too.
Awesome.
Yeah. I think that's great.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gia.
Thank you,
Thank you
Dylan.
for coming on. Great story. Great practical advice. I'm glad we kind of broke through to the core
thank
a
you.
little
That was very
bit.
cool.
For anybody out there who's listening, please do us a favor. Like, comment, subscribe. You can follow Gia Silva on Instagram, giasilva.lb or NT Realty, right? And if you haven't yet, go ahead and leave us a review. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. We're going to start ramping this stuff up a lot more. We have a lot of good podcasts coming up on the way. So
For sure.
thank you again for coming on.
Thank you, guys.
And
Thank you.
we'll see you guys on the next one.
Peace.